Hello and welcome to Honest Faith Conversations. As always, I am your co-host, Miguel Covarrubias.
And I'm Kathy Covarrubias. And today, let's talk about Netflix's MindHunter.
Also found out that it's from David Fincher as well, so that is a name that you might recognize from such movies as Social Network, and he's also done several shows.
Check out his other stuff.
Yeah, he was fantastic. So we'll get on to that. Anyway, spoiler alert, as always. We will be talking about things that happen throughout the show. So if you have not yet seen the show, it is one that is binge-worthy on Netflix. I would say that it's definitely binge-worthy. In fact, we put off most of our TV watching this week just so we could finish it.
Yep.
And when it was over, it was kind of like, wait, it's over?
Yeah.
Wait,
I
hold
have to
on.
wait for season 2?
It was definitely a good cliffhanger at the end there, which actually was very good baiting for season 2.
Yep.
Review and summary.
Yes.
Summary would be, this is the beginning of the special psychological FBI organization that delves into profiling criminals and suspects according to psychological profiles. That was a little redundant.
Did you just define something using its own...
Using itself? Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Which is why I was like, oh, I just did that. Yeah, okay.
That's it? That's what you're...
Yeah, that's my summary.
Oh, okay. I would add to it that it is actually based on true events. Not everything, of course, is like 100% true. Like, some names have been changed. However, the names of the killers in the show are the same. And the stuff that they talk about is, I would say, 90% the same as what happened in real life.
Yeah. My review is that it was excellent. It was an excellent series. I do enjoy David Fincher's work. And I think that it was very well written. You can tell, even though they were based on real people, that the characters themselves felt very real.
Yeah.
All of the actors did a fantastic job of portraying real complex emotions, real complex characters and individuals. In fact, that's what I'm going to be talking about today for mine, is that is a character is basically focusing on Holden Ford, who is the main character, who is based on the guy who a lot of other characters are based off of as well in other series and other things, but
other series, other things. That's very broad.
It is very broad because it's books and or TV series and or movies, and so
he's basically the guy that linked together psychology and criminology.
Yeah, and Holden is kind of based on him.
Yep.
So, going to be talking about Holden here in a little bit, but I think that I think everybody worked together well. This is when directors, writers, and actors work very well together. That they did a very good job of portraying complexity and real complex emotions and humanity within this framework.
Yeah, especially the actors that played serial killers. They were very good at adding the creep factor to it, especially I listen to a lot of other podcasts about serial killers and crimes and that kind of stuff, so I already kind of knew these names, and these guys portrayed them exactly how I imagined them in my head, and it just was, the creep factor was really there. So I guess I'll put that in as my review, is that there was definitely a creep factor knowing that a lot of this stuff is true and happened.
Yeah, well, and the actor who portrayed Kemper was, I mean, his mannerisms and, in fact, the look was just like spot on.
Yeah.
He was creepy, and the fact that he is, well, we already give the spoiler alert warning, but since he was the ending, kind of bring it full circle there. That in itself made you like realize that you did not know everything about Kemper. Like there was so much more to Kemper that not even the audience realized.
Yeah, and we found out today that Kemper actually is still like alive in prison right now.
Yeah, and still helping profilers figure out how to profile.
Yeah, he's doing this willingly. He's making it his mission in life to like help the law enforcement profile criminals and like catch them sooner than you know, having them go on killing sprees.
He's kind of like the real life Hannibal Lecter,
minus the eating people.
Yeah,
he did not eat the people.
No, he was the co-ed killer, but it was creepy. Like the stuff that he did is just horrid.
Yes, and one thing that I think he's realized that he was not right in the brain or is not right, because he even said like he's missed his parole hearings because he doesn't feel like he can go back into society.
Yeah. And I think that's finding your calling in itself.
It's like it's like, even though he's a mass murderer and he, you know, killed all these innocent people, like he realizes he's a bad person, but now is trying to use his badness to help.
To help understand. Yeah. And I think that in itself is fantastic.
I think that's good. I think what he did in this past, not so good, but I'm glad that he's able to recognize that he shouldn't be out in society and he could cause more damage. So
anyway, this is
it's weird.
Good
I know
review,
it's weird. It's a really, really weird. I know.
Good review for a show based on real true crime stuff. Mm-hmm. It's not your basic cop procedural drama.
Yeah, there's no like slow fades and there's no like pictures just like moving across the screen of like when they were younger. So
or the bad puns where they put on their glasses.
Mm-hmm. Yep, none of that. Well, there might be some puns.
Looks like he better quit while he's ahead. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So
moving on. What are you talking about today?
Like I said, we're talking about Holden, primarily because
he's the main character.
He's the main character, but Holden goes through a transformation in the series, which is very subtle, and I mean it's to the point where you don't even realize it if you're not looking for it. That in the very beginning, Holden starts off as this kind of bright-eyed, kind of more academic. You know, you see him first in a hostage negotiation situation. Yeah. And you know he's trying his best, but you can tell that he's a little wet behind the ears. You know, he's still new. He's still at it, and you know, and so he's been asked to become this educator. And you see him as wanting to take in all of this information that he can. He's inspired by his date, because she's not exactly his girlfriend in the first part.
Yeah, I guess. This girl he meets at a party.
It was at a bar.
No, at a bar. But then they go to a party.
Yeah, they go to a party after that. Anyway, that he's really inquisitive and really, you know, realizes he doesn't know it all, and that he wants to know more. He's really has that curiosity.
Which is great. I mean, a lot of people don't have that curiosity, especially in their mid-20s.
Yeah, and the series arc, well, the season arc, I should say, the season arc has him going from that to at the end where he's this cocky, cocksure guy ready to, you know, say he's right, everyone else is wrong. Mm-hmm. That he's the best that there ever was, and, you know, that's kind of what takes him down. Is that cockiness and the self-assuredness of him, when, you know, and that's kind of, you know, I've already talked a little bit about the Kemper scene at the end there, but it was the Kemper scene that I think teaches him not only how far he's come, but also how far he's gone into this kind of pride
demon dragon
thing. We're going to call it a pride spiral.
Yes. Okay. Sure.
And this is this is the thing that I really wanted to focus on, is because I think that as a person who's kind of experienced this himself, and I know that as a youth minister, I try to really just always say the fact that, I didn't know everything there was to know about the Bible, or I didn't know everything there was to know about being a youth minister or a minister or working with teenagers, and that I always had more to learn, and that I was always trying to be more curiouser. Anyway, however you say that, I was always trying to find out more about those topics. And there were times in my life when I felt where, I was like, no, I know it all. I'm the best that ever was. I'm the best youth minister ever, which, sometimes I guess I could have said that, but not all the times. As I tell people more often than not, youth ministry was about failing the least badly. Was that it's all failure. You're basically just trying to fail the least badly.
Yeah, because there's always going to be one person who's going to be upset with your decision, no matter how thoughtful, no matter how planned out, no matter like how inclusive you try to make it be. There's always going to be one person who's going to be mad at you for it.
Exactly. And so I saw so much of myself in Holden throughout this entire series that, both sides of it, were starting out where he was this bright-eyed, ready to take on the world, and ready to learn everything that he could. And I think that at first Bill believed in him, and then towards the end there, that Bill just had enough of him.
Yeah. And
I think it was because of this. It was because Holden kind of felt like he kind of outshone Bill in a way, that he learned more than Bill, or he was better at things than Bill.
Yeah.
And Bill was just kind of like, no, whatever, man.
Yeah, well, and Bill had a lot of stuff going on at home too, that he had more stuff he had other worries, more important worries in his world than work.
Exactly. And that's one of the great things, was that he was a complex character as well, was that his home life was important to him. Mm-hmm. And that this was taking a toll on him, and so he needed to take a step back and take a different approach to the way that he went about his life. And
I think that's why he went golfing at the very beginning of the series all the time, was because he needed time, like, to think about stuff, like
exactly.
Just to be by himself and to think,
Well, and there was also what his wife says to him in the second to last, or maybe it was the third to last episode, where it's that
Excuse me, sorry everybody.
you aren't home. You're not home with your son. That you're always thinking about golf, even when you're home with him. That you're angling to get to golf, and that's what you care more about. You don't care about him, and I think that for him that was kind of that moment that broke his pride, was that okay, I can do things for myself, but I also need to think about my family as well. I need to think about what I can give up for them.
Yeah.
And I think that moment for Holden especially was there with Kemper at the end, where Kemper was like, "You don't know everything about me."
Yeah.
And like was full on creep with Holden.
I'm surprised that there was nobody in the room with them together.
Oh, I know. Well, and I think that, they're like, oh, he's an FBI agent. He can handle himself.
Well, and also, too, I don't think they really went into this in the series at all, but in real life, Kemper, like, the law enforcement in his hometown, he loved him. Like, they thought that he was, this big friendly giant. He actually tried to get into law enforcement. I think he brings that up in this TV series. He tried to get into law enforcement, early in his life, but he was too big. They wouldn't allow him to join, but he still hung out with a lot of the police officers.
No, they talked about it in the series, about how, he was his friend, and so bringing him in was a tough thing for them to do, because they didn't realize that it was him.
Yeah.
That he just finally got tired of running and was like, okay, look, I'm the one that did it.
Well, he didn't get tired of running. He just, there's not a lot of suspects when both your mom and your mom's friend were murdered.
Yeah. But I think that this was the big flaw in Holden, was that Holden didn't realize his need for help.
Yeah.
And you saw this in Bill, that Bill realized his need for help, that he did ask for help. He did seek out help from his wife, from his friends, from... and I can see him going to Wendy and saying, look, Wendy, how do I deal with my son? Because he knew that Wendy knew more than him.
Yeah, yeah.
As according to psychology. I keep wanting to call her Olivia because of Fringe, but...
She has a different hair color than in Fringe. Both times.
She's faux Olivia.
No, she's not even faux Olivia.
Yeah, because she's not red hair.
No, she has brown hair.
She's brown hair, yeah, so...
So, she's not even faux Olivia.
She's not even faux Olivia. And I think this is the big flaw that, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but I think the whole idea of it, because this is bringing philosophy and psychology into the realm of crime and figuring out how criminals think and kind of the sociology of it all. And I think that this is a little bit on the... I think they did bring Immanuel Kant into the whole series somewhere, and when they were talking about philosophy a little bit and psychology. But I think this is something that, especially today, is a big internet argument, is how can people be moral without religion? And this is something that Immanuel Kant did on his... this was his life's work, was to try to figure that out. And it was all about, what we've been taught our entire lives. And this is something that goes way, way back to even early Egypt, is the golden rule, is to treat others as you want to be treated. And this was something that Immanuel Kant did a lot of work on and did a lot of work with. And this is something that I think that especially Holden could have learned from here in this, is that he was seeing people as a means to an end, rather than an end themselves. And this was something that is very Kant-like in its ideal, is that Kant believed that everybody was an end, not a means to an end, but an end. That we are all complex individuals, that we are all working towards something. We all have our own personal struggles and relationships, stuff like this. And this was something that I think completely passed Holden by. This was the entire theme of the first season here, was that he wasn't even imagining criminals as complexly.
Yeah. And
you saw this in the second to last episode. You saw this in his costume change. You saw this as soon as he became that cocky guy near the end there, was that he didn't view anybody as complexly as he had viewed himself, that he was the only one that was right.
Well, he viewed himself as being superior, clearly, than everybody else, smarter than everybody else, too.
Exactly. And this is the thing, it was that he didn't look to others. He didn't look to others for help, because he was it. He was the bee's knees, according to himself.
Sorry, bee's knees. Okay, Grandpa.
And I think that this is something that we'll go into a little bit more here in where we should go from here, especially because this has a lot to do with the church. But I think it's that he didn't follow his own advice to some people, because he was trying to. So he was trying to just do his own thing.
Yeah, and seriously, talking about not taking other people's advice. In fact, one thing that I noticed almost immediately after the season was over was that he gave advice to somebody that he was not willing to follow himself. And that's like a big no-no in my world, is don't give advice to somebody that you're not willing to follow. Mm-hmm. That just bothers me to no end. I find it very hypocritical. And when people, and I know of plenty of people who give advice that completely do the exact opposite, and they don't even acknowledge that they do the exact opposite. They show that, or they like to put this airs about them that they're perfect in every way, and so you need to follow them when they have as many skeletons, if not more, than you in the closet.
Yeah. Well, and for those, I don't know why you're listening and you haven't watched the show yet, but for those of you who aren't, can you explain the advice that he gave?
No, that's what I was going to. So
Okay.
so during that, I want to say it was one of the, like either the third to the last or fourth to the last episode, I can't remember. But it's when the school asks the FBI to step in and to kind of help them decide what they want to do with this principal. Well, actually, the school comes in and he's explaining to the students. No, the school has him come in, is what I meant to say, to talk to the students about keeping an eye out for like deviant behavior and disturbed behavior. And during the course of that, one of the teachers pulls him aside and is like, well, you know, you told the kids to tell you when you've noticed something disturbing. Well, I've noticed that with one of the principals. And so through the course of that, at the very end, Holden just tells the principal, like, hey, you know you're doing it. You know you've been told not only by parents, but by other teachers and then also by the school board to stop doing what you're doing. Like, people don't want you to do anymore. Just stop. You're going to get yourself in trouble. And the principal was like, no, I'm going to do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. And then the principal ends up getting fired and losing his job, and just his life spirals out of control. And the funny thing is, Holden, at the very end, like, people were also pointing out to him, like, hey, you gotta stop doing what you're doing. What you're doing is not okay. You need to tell them the truth. There's, like, even his colleagues were, like, essentially ratting him out on the things that he was doing because it was so, like, inappropriate and bad. And he was just like, no, I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. In fact, he did it again.
Yeah, he went in and talked to the committee like that. Mm-hmm. He went in, and I think that I kind of pinpointed. Well, that was beforehand, but he was about to break before that time. That his change of character was really at that point. I think that was a pivotal moment for him, whether or not he went in and actually investigated, which he really shouldn't have done. No,
and even Greg Smith, who is the typer, is what I called him. I'm not sure like what his official title is, but he's the
special agent.
Yeah, sure, yeah, he's the guy that sits and listens and types out everything. But he even said, like, yeah, I don't think we should have done that. Like, I think we overstepped our bounds.
Whereas, yeah, and even for me as an audience member watching this, is like I had mixed feelings on it too. Was that yes, nobody else is doing anything, but I don't think you have the right place to do this. That it needs to be somebody else. That maybe you should just talk to somebody else in local law enforcement or like a psychologist or something. And be like, hey, can you get a hold of this guy and talk to him?
Or I think they could have just said, like, they could have just backed off and said, no, like, we can't discuss this with you. Like, this is something you guys got to, figure out on yourself. Obviously, what the principal was doing is definitely a no-no now. Like, you do not tickle children as somebody in authority like that.
Yeah. Especially paying them to... Yeah, that's, like, for me, is throwing up all kinds of red flags. And there were red flags, especially when, and this is the great thing about the show, was that almost every single shot had something that, if you blinked, you missed it. Mm-hmm. But the principal, and it was touching the children as they were leaving the classroom. Like, almost all of them. There were some kids that were like, no, don't touch me. There were other ones that were like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And you saw him also holding hands with a little girl down the hallway. And, that these, I think, meant to throw up red flags for the average watcher to be like, oh, my gosh, what's going on? This principal's kind of creepy. So. Yeah.
And I just think it's so funny that, he gave this advice to the principal, like telling him, everybody's telling you to stop. You need to listen to them. Mm-hmm. And yet Holden's colleagues were telling Holden to stop. And he was just like, no, whatever. I know what I'm doing. I'm smarter. Which was the exact same reaction to the principal. but he didn't recognize it in himself.
Well, and I think that's really difficult for us as human beings to do, especially when we're faced with something like that, especially in a combative atmosphere. And for the principal, I'm pretty sure that was a very combative atmosphere. If an FBI agent comes storming into your office and basically says, "We need to talk alone. Stop doing this."
Yeah. Yeah, especially since that I feel like was overstepping the bounds, especially since they weren't actually doing a real investigation.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's when so many people in your life are telling you you need to stop your behavior, stop the way that you are like thinking in terms of like thinking that you are so much higher than everybody else. Maybe it's time for a little self-reflection. Like maybe it's time to sit back and kind of look about the interactions that you have had with people and try to put yourself in their shoes to figure out like why that's not okay.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's hard to take that advice. Sometimes you need to take a step back, in a sense, to let other voices in. And it's hard to do that. I know it's hard to do that. Like I said before, I resonated with Holden. There were some times in my life when I had those voices in my life that were saying, "Hey, you need to take a look at what you did because this probably wasn't right."
And I think too that the people who are able to like take a step back and do a little bit of self-reflection and figure out like what they need to do and like how to go about fixing the situation that they put themselves in are stronger people than the people who, tell their friends to like leave them alone and let them be like who they want to be and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I just want to tell a story of when I was like, I think I was in like 4th or 5th grade, but there was a bunch of girls in gym class, and we were just waiting for the bell to ring, and we were kind of showing off like how small we could do braids. And then like I just jumped into the conversation, was like, look how small I can do mine. And one of the girls in the class, I remember who it was too. I'm not going to say who it was on the air, but I remember specifically who it was just like, Kathy, why do you always have to try to one-up everybody? And like that was like in the 4th or 5th grade. And at that point in time, I was like, wait, I do? And then as I kind of went on with my life, I did realize, yeah, I do sometimes try to one-up everybody. And still to this day, I sometimes do too, but I've learned to be a little bit more reserved. And then when people ask for my advice, then that's when I would, like, tell them.
Yeah.
But it is something that I still struggle with. And I just think that it's amazing that, 4th or 5th grade year old classmate was able to see that, flaw within me and was totally okay with just telling me, hey, you got to work on this.
And I think this has a lot to do with needing other people, and this is something that bringing it back around to where we should go from here, kind of thing, is that this is something that the church does quite often, especially religious people, as they don't see other people as complexly as they see themselves, and this is mind-blowing to me that all of a sudden the church, the Western church, has gotten their minds around those with power are suddenly like holy people, and that everybody that they need to help are kind of lesser than. When really we are all complex human beings, that we should all treat each other like complex human beings, that we all have needs, we all have struggles, we all have desires, we all have things that kind of hold us back. And yeah, there are even serial killers out there, which I'm not saying that there aren't, and I'm not saying that it's that we should all live in harmony and that nobody should be in prison.
Oh no,
kind of thing,
no! Like I feel like serial killers definitely need to be stopped.
Yes, need to be stopped, and at least put away from society or something. And I think that's an amazing thing. That's what I meant about Kemper, was that he realizes that about himself. Is he's self-aware enough to know that if he was on the outside, if he was back in society, that he would kill again, that he would do this stuff again, that he's not fit for that.
Well, and this makes me wonder too, like, obviously we need a huge reform in our judicial system and like how we handle prisoners too, because there hasn't been much change from, when this show was till now. I mean, people are still literally like locked up in a small cell with not much interaction with other people, and when it is, it's pretty toxic.
Well, it's basing it on a system that was developed in medieval era. It's, just lock people up and that'll make them better, which it doesn't. It's, this weird recidivism. I mean, our recidivism rates in this country alone are extraordinary. Like they're extraordinarily high.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that the church can be involved with, that most religious communities, and this is something that even Jesus, in that whole sheep and goat story, was that I was in prison and you visited me.
Yeah.
Was that's something that they don't do. Some churches don't have no prison ministry whatsoever, and even if they do have prison ministry, it's to go in to witness to people.
Yeah.
Like that really helps.
Yeah.
No, it's about trying to show people that, hey, look, you're in here, but when you get out, you can be a functioning member of society, and we'll help you.
Yeah.
We'll help you get back on your feet. We'll help you to become an actual functioning member of society again. And that's the problem, is that we're not looking at the real root problem of crime. We're not looking at the real root problem of why we're doing these things.
Yeah.
With the profiling, yes, it's seeing which screw is loose, basically, in somebody's head, but it's also, thinking about some of these other crimes like theft and with drugs and all these other things. Theft is primarily because they don't have enough. They need to get, ahead in society, and that's the only way they know how. With drugs, it's escapism. They've got a deeper problem that needs to be addressed. With some of these other things, organized crime, it's basically power. It's, wanting power over people. And
yep, and trying to recruit the people to make them feel as if they're in a family, because chances are they come from a dysfunctional family, which is why a lot of organized crime is able to get so many people into the ranks.
Exactly.
Because they're looking for a family unit.
And that's what, Jesus's, I think, whole idea was about this, was that you're visiting me in prison, you're getting to know me as a human being. You're seeing what my needs are, what I need, what I desire, what my next step is. And I think that it's very essential for the church to see other people as complexly as they see themselves, as not just a means to an end, not just another number to chalk up on their chalkboard of saved souls or whatever, but as an actual human being.
Yep. Well, and I don't know, there's just so many things. I know that there's some great programs out there right now in a lot of prison systems that are trying to fix the problem, because they realize that there is a problem. However, a lot of our prisons are for profit. And because of that, they want to put as many people back inside of their cells as they possibly can so they can remain open and get more money.
Yeah.
And so they have no problem with not fixing the situation.
And I mean, there are so many problems that, if we took an actual deep look at almost any system in our world today, they're deeply flawed.
Oh, yeah.
Because humans are involved.
Yeah.
We're all deeply flawed because we can't think of everything. And that's why we need each other. That's why we need to listen to advice from even the ones that we give to others that we think, hey, this is how you should be dealing with these things.
Yep.
Maybe take a look in the mirror before you give somebody that advice.
Yep.
And I like how you brought that up, was, that story about your advice, fourth grade advice, was that, why do you always got to one up someone? And I think that's something that we need to take a good look at ourselves. As the great philosopher and sadly accused person himself, Michael Jackson once said, if you want to change the world, you got to start with the man in the mirror.
Mm-hmm. Or the woman.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The man, yeah.
The person in the mirror.
The person in the mirror. And I hope that song is now stuck in your head.
Yes.
So, let us wrap it up now. This is what's coming up for us on Honest Faith Conversations. Next week, we're going to be doing Baby Driver. I've been wanting to watch this for a while now. Edgar Wright, his most recent movie. And I love Edgar Wright. I love his movies. I love the Coronado trilogy. Especially Hot Fuzz. One of my all-time favorite movies. As well as Shaun of the Dead.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So... then the week after that, we are going to be talking about The Punisher. If we can get through that in the day and a half that we're going to have to actually watch it, because it comes out on next Friday, so we may not get through that. So it may be a different episode in 2 weeks.
Well, next Friday.
It doesn't come out this Friday. It comes out next Friday.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Then, if we have time in 3 weeks, we will be doing Broadchurch Season 3, which we loved first 2 seasons of Broadchurch. They were incredibly well acted, which I am so excited for Jodie Whittaker to be the next Doctor. By the way, she was great in Broadchurch. And if she's in Season 3, that's another reason to look forward to Season 3, is that she just very complex emotions, and as like you felt the weight of her emotions, which is fantastic. And so I'm so excited for her to be the Doctor in Doctor Who. Anyway, if you have anything to say about that or today's episode or any of our previous episodes, leave us a voicemail. We did get a voicemail this week, but I think it was from a wrong number because it was also a Colorado number. But if you have anything to say, if you would like to join our conversation, we will use your clip on the radio, on our podcast. If you would like to be a part of that, that'd be great. So you can even plug your own podcast if you would like. And anyway, that phone number is 720-372-3879. Again, that is 720-372-3879. You can also find us on social media. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/Real Honest Faith. We are on Twitter @Real Honest Faith. You can also find us on our personal accounts on Twitter. Just be aware that mine does kind of have some rants and does involved in some Twitter activism in itself.
Yeah.
So.
And then mine is like, look, here is my son. Look, here is my puppy. So if you want something a little more mild, mine's a good one.
Yes. We are also on Reddit. We're also on Tumblr. We're also on Google Plus. Does anybody use Google Plus?
Are we really on Google Plus?
We are on Google Plus because we have a Gmail account. So. We're on YouTube. So yeah. Also, if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, I think it's called now.
Please
give us a review and give us a
one,
rating. Also, on any of the platforms that you use, give us a rating, give us a review. That would be great. We really appreciate
even
those
if
of you
it
that
is
listen.
like a thumbs up or a like indifferent face. Like I'm good with that too.
Meh.
Meh.
They're okay to listen to on occasion, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that are okay to listen to on occasion, there is an audio blog on the website as well that you can check out at thehonestfaith.com. I will begin starting to record the audio book for my book that I have self-published. So you can buy the book before the audio book comes out for that here soon. So that will be recorded there. And I think that we're all caught up on all of our announcements for that. Oh, Patreon. Sorry. One more. If you feel like giving to us, that would be great. Patreon. Go to Patreon.
Yeah.
And become a patron.
It is my birthday tomorrow, so...
Say happy birthday to Kathy by giving us $1 a month. Or something. Anyway, yeah, we would love for you to become a patron of ours. Anyway, that's all the social media and all those announcements that we have. So with all of that being said, we invite you to come and join the conversation.
Bye.